Hi guys, I'm excited to finally be here with this tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how I use my Copics, and I will do several parts of this video. I'm just going to do the first part this weekend, and then hopefully next weekend be able to do the next part. If anything, it will kind of be a series throughout the next month or so. But I'm going to do different parts of this image, and I'm going to show you the way I color with Copics. And in the end, it will end up being something like this. So I'm going to show you how I do the skin first. I'm going to do that today, because that's a lot of times the hardest thing I find. I used to teach Copic classes locally, and that was always the thing that was most difficult, was getting the skin to look realistic. And then I will probably tackle the hair next, which is also always a question on how to get just the variegated colors and things. And then I'll do her little outfit here. So I love this image. This is a La La Land craft stamp, and I've had it for a while, so it's an older one, but I really like it, and I just thought with summer coming up it'd be a really fun image to color. And I'm going to show you how I do this hair color as well, and share some other hair colors in another video. But like I said, today I'm just going to focus on the skin, and I'm going to work on her face. So the colors that I'm going to use are mostly in the E's. I'm going to use E11 as a contrasting color. I'm going to use E21 as the base color, and then E00 as a highlight. And this will be for just accents on her cheeks and lips, and that's R20. Now with the Copics, I won't go into a whole lot of detail just because there's so many videos already out there, but essentially when I color, I always choose three. I choose the actual color I want, then I choose a highlight and a contrasting color. So that's always what I do. Every once in a while I'll choose just two colors to work with, and it'll be fine, especially if you're working with a small area like her her top. I'm probably only going to use two colors. But any part that you want to really give dimension to, like the skin and the hair, you definitely want to go with three colors so that you have a highlight and then a darker tone to contrast. And when I blend, I'll explain things as I go. So I'm not going to do this fast play. I am going to try to work quickly, but also explain while I do it. One tip that I'm going to give you is to leave your markers uncapped while you're coloring. It's not going to hurt your markers. I've had mine for years, probably about 3 years now. You can see how well worn they are. And all of this junk is from refilling because I always spill it. I don't know what's wrong with me, but anyway, these have been well used, well loved and well used, and they're fine. So I uncap all my markers because the whole trick with Copics is blending them. And if you let the layers dry before you get a chance to blend them, then they're just not going to blend once they've started to dry. So when I color, I start with my darkest color. Some people start with their lightest, I start with my darkest. So I'm going to have them right over here in order. And always be careful, because in this case you can really tell which one is dark, medium, and light from the marker tip, but a lot of times you can't. So always look at the numbers. And I do use the sketch tip. There is a chisel tip on the other end if you're using the Copic sketch markers. The trowel markers are exactly the same. The only difference is the body style is round and it doesn't have the number on the top, but you can easily put it with like a little piece of paper or something. Alright, so when I shade, I just look and think, where would the shading be? It would probably be underneath her hair and around the bottom of her face. I don't have any training as an artist. I just do what I think looks good, because the whole point of this hobby is to have fun. And if you're so busy thinking about where the exact shade's going to be in real life, for me, then that takes the fun out of it. So I just do what I think looks good and hope it ends up okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start shading. And when you're coloring, let me see if you guys can see that. I'm going to try to angle it. I do angle my brush like this, or my marker rather. And I use feather light strokes. And notice I'm going in one direction. I'm swiping, picking up the marker, and swiping again. That is exactly how you should color. Do not go back and forth like you would a regular marker. It will not produce the effect that you're wanting with the Copics. Okay, and I'm going to stop there. I'm going to need to shade there, but before this dries, I'm going to go back. And what you do now is go over with your medium color. And what you're doing is you're starting back at the top and you're pulling your color forward because you're trying to blend the two markers. So you're pulling the color forward. And again, feather light strokes. If the nib of your marker is bending, you're pressing too hard. It should not be bending at all. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with my third color, do the same thing. I'm going to pull out the color. Again, feather light strokes, you're pulling out in the exact same direction every time. So if you're pulling down, do not push back up, because this marker is moving around, the color from the marker is moving around on the paper. And if you're pushing it backwards, then you're pushing the color back and it's not going to blend. It's just going to get all mottled. Alright, so now I'm going to come back to the bottom. And again, the reason I did that is I didn't want the top to dry before I could get to the bottom. And I think I'm just going to keep the contrast there. And again, same direction. So since I'm going up this time, I'm pulling the color up. And notice I'm not going all the way to the middle yet. I'll explain why in a minute. Okay. So there I have a good base. I always do 2 coats just like you would on a manicure. You want to do 2 coats with your Copic markers because you're going to get a truer color that way. And a lot of times they don't blend on the first try anyway. So I would definitely go back and do a second coat. Not necessary, but highly recommended just from my perspective. I don't do the middle yet on the first coat, and the reason why is I want to keep that part of her face the lightest, just like I have here. And if you're using the lightest color in the middle and then you're going over it a second time, you're basically adding another layer of color, just like you would think of it like nail polish. When you do a second coat, you're adding another layer of color. So I keep the middle open until very last, so it will be the absolute lightest color. So now I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to again start, and I'm just going to do the top first, and then I'll do the bottom, and then we'll go back in and add the shading in the middle, or the color in the middle. So this time I'm going to be careful that I'm just going right to the very top under her hairline. And again, one direction. And I'm coloring fast so it looks like I'm doing back and forth, but I'm picking up my marker every time, picking up, swiping, pick up, swipe, pick up. And if you get a little in the hair, no big deal. That's why we do the face first. So again, I'm just using straight strokes to pull the color down. And if you find that it's hard to blend, you can do little itty bitty circles to blend just on the blend line only. So where the 2 colors meet, you can do little circles to blend it. Like right here, I'm having a little trouble seeing that blending, so, and then I go back with my straight lines. And again, I'll compare it to nail polish. If you color up and down with your nail polish, it's not going to get that smooth effect that you want. In my eyes, it's the same thing with your Copics. Okay, and then now I'm going to go on the side, and really quickly guys, it does look very dark. As the marker dries, it will lighten up. So I'm going to go through with my darkest color just on that edge. Then remember pulling the color, coloring in the same direction. And you're doing feather light strokes. I know I keep saying that, but that's so important, and that's always the biggest issue I've seen when I've done classes in the past, is people pressing too hard. If your marker is bent, like if the nib is bent at all, like that, you're pressing way too hard. You just want to color like that. The marker, the tip of the marker should not move. Make sure you guys can see that. This camera is angled down as far as it can go. Eventually I'd like to get a better angle so that you're like right on top of the image, but I'll work on that. For now, this is better than it was. Okay, so as you can see, we have pretty much everything done except the middle. So now what I'm going to do is go back, and I'm going to color up, bring that down so that we meet in the middle, and then do one quick color over. And then that's going to be her face. So in just a minute, you will see that it will lighten up to to that color. So right now you can see how much darker it is. You just have to give it time to dry. So let me look at my time here. Alright, so I'll go ahead and let's do one of her arms now while that's drying, and then hopefully you'll see the difference. So with the arms I can go a little faster because it's a smaller area, and her arms will probably have shading like right underneath her face, and then right by her clothes, and probably bottom, and that's probably about it. So I go over with my darkest. Now I'm going to go with my medium. Again, single strokes, pulling the color out, same direction. And then going with my last color. And with the arms, it's not as big of a deal. You don't have to leave like part of it uncolored. I just like that effect for the face, the really dimensional face. And if you color outside the lines, which I'm doing, it is not a big deal. When I go in at the end to kind of clean up the lines, I add shading, which I guess I can do a video on that as well, just really easy shading on your images to cover up those little, mess ups there. I will show you how to hide that. So I guess that will be, I'll do the skin, the hair, the clothes, and then like the fix up video. And then I'm going kind of fast. I want you to know when I first started coloring I was much slower, but it's just like anything. When you get the hang of it, it's much easier to do at a faster speed. So, really just take your time and don't try to go so fast. I will show you though really quickly. I mean, most of you probably know this if you work with Copics, but the colorless blender is really a misnomer. It is not a blender at all. It's really an eraser. And I use it to clean up my edges. So I take the tip of the marker. Now with this, you can just kind of do little concise circles and blot where you've gone out of the lines. It won't make a huge difference until it dries. So you can see how it's like wetting the paper, but just let it dry and it should take that little part away. And then once we do the shading, it will completely hide it. Alright, so I will be right back. I'm going to give this about 2 or 3 minutes to dry, and then I'll come back and show you the results. Alright, so it's been about a half an hour, and I just wanted to kind of come back and show you the results. It's still a little darker than this one. Honestly, it takes a few hours before it settles in completely. I went ahead and finished up the different areas of the skin, and I took the R20, and what I did was I just dabbed a few little dots on each of her cheeks to give it that kind of rosy effect. So that's how it turned out. I definitely recommend when you're coloring to get really close to your image. Normally, like, my head is like right on top of the image so I can see what I'm doing really well. That's just not really a good angle for the camera to see the top of my head the whole time, so I didn't do that this time, but definitely get close to your image and you'll actually be able to see like the color moving on the paper. It's really cool, depending on what paper you use. And a lot of times you will get pretty much an image like that on the back. That's normal, don't worry about it. The paper I use is actually the Copic white paper, and I used to get it from my wholesaler, but I don't really go to that wholesaler anymore. I used to sell Copics locally, so I used to make big purchases, but I will put a link below to a really good site, which I'm not sure what they're called anymore. I think it's Marker Pop, but they used to be iCopic, so I'll put a link there. But they have really good prices on Copics, and they have a wide variety of Copic paper. And I will hopefully be able to do another tutorial on the hair and different parts of this most likely next weekend. So thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have any questions at all, please comment below. Thanks guys, bye.